Good evening, Xavier Basketball hoop fans. It's December 10th, 2018, and it's the RaGing X Report. I'm Jim Reeker, and I'm going to be joined here in a minute by my friend Bill Gabriel as we review last week's games and the big crosstown shootout, which Muskie fans are trying to recover from. And we'll kind of take a minute and kind of maybe try to give Coach Travis Steele some advice on how to go forward and review the upcoming game next weekend. I think, Bill, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm great, Jim.
Get that young'un to bed?
Yeah, one of them.
So we record in the evening after Bill has some young children. He has to get those to bed first. So we're a little delayed. It's tough right before Christmas, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's not get to the bad news first. Let's start with the Ohio game and talk about that a little bit. And it was an interesting game, very, very close. In fact, I went back and looked at 8:55 remaining in the game. The Musketeers led 59-55. Went on a 23-6 run in that last about 9 minutes. And if you look at this score the next morning and didn't watch it, you would think that the Musketeers just kind of dominated the whole game. But what was the difference those last 10 minutes?
I think they just made shots. They got a few defensive plays that gave them some runouts, but they put the ball in the basket. Scruggs played really well the whole game, but he played really well that last 8 minutes, along with Tyreek Jones. I think he went from I want to say he went from 2 or 4 points, maybe 3 to whatever he ended up with. I think it was 12, 13. So he got going in that frame as well there at the end of the second half.
What was the effect of Quentin not playing? I'm trying to recall. It seemed like Scruggs played maybe point a little bit. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Najee bring the ball up a little bit maybe when Paul wasn't in the game?
Yeah, I think they roll Najee over into that point guard role, especially if Scruggs and Quentin both aren't in the game. I think I think the Xavier way that in the past when they would talk about that is new guys of the team, they only learn one position. So a new freshman is only asked to learn one position. So I wonder if they take the same approach with the grad transfers and they only learn one spot. And then it's up to the veteran guys to understand 2 or more different spots. And I guess that's kind of Najee's role this year is kind of be maybe a jack of all trades for this team.
Well, I'm a little concerned about that because, for 6'7", he handles it well for 6'7", but I get kind of scared when he's bringing the ball up the floor. I've seen him too many times that it kind of knocked away from him, and he leads the team, I think, in turnovers. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He's averaging 3.3 turnovers a game. So that scares me. I kind of wonder, and I thought early on, maybe going back to even exhibition, that maybe Elias Harden played that position a little bit, but it doesn't seem like – it seems like Elias, I know he was under the weather maybe the game before that, and maybe still a little bit. And we don't want to get too far down the road. He didn't even play on Saturday. So – I don't know. I just get concerned when I see Najee bring the ball up and some 6'3", 6'4", point guard approaching him. I mean, I'm fearful they put pressure on him. It could be real trouble. What'd you think about that was a game where they kind of threw the zone and Coach Steele kind of mixed it up a little bit and I think kind of caught the Bobcats a little bit off guard there.
Yeah, the zone was a good look for him against the Bobcats and gave them a chance to get in some passing lanes, get some turnovers. And the great thing about when you're in a zone defense is when you get a defensive turnover, guys see it and they're already running out. It helps transition into the offensive end of the court a lot faster.
Yeah, you're right, and you did talk about Scruggs. And I'm looking at his line: 21 points, 8 assists, 4 steals, 5 rebounds. Great line, except if you go even further, he did have 4 turnovers against the Bobcats. And what has really, I think, been a limiter for him and something that I think needs to be fixed is his foul trouble. He actually had 4 fouls, and I look back, he's actually fouled out of 3 games already. And, of course, we're only, 10 games in?
Yeah, that's definitely a concern because they need him on the floor. He's kind of becoming a key cog for them. Not that he wasn't going to be, but I think he may be their star when it's all said and done. And they definitely need him out there on the floor.
Yeah, I looked at some of his stats from last year, and I don't know if I was reading or listening to somebody made the point that pretty much at this time last year he wasn't really even playing. If you remember last year, he didn't really start to get some big minutes until really, I'd say, 3/4 of the way through the season. He started to get a few more minutes, but really I think he only averaged about 15 minutes, if that, last year. And I think he's already scored almost twice as many points this year than he scored all of last year. So, yeah, that's I agree. I think he's a key going forward. But, again, I think that's something, and we'll talk about it later after we talk about the UC debacle. I think he needs to be on the floor more. In fact, I'll look at it right now. He's only averaging 29 minutes a game. So he's sitting on the bench for 10 minutes, and I'd like to see him maybe on the floor at least 5 more minutes than that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the foul trouble's limiting him big time. Yeah,
and, this isn't – well, we are deep. I mean, the key I do look at is, looking at the minutes, you go all the way down. Keontae Kennedy's averaging 16 minutes a game. Kyle Caston, 24. I'm looking at the bottom here. Wellage, 19. I mean, it really doesn't drop off till Dontarius James doesn't see the floor very often. So they're about going 9 deep right now. The other guy, I think, and he didn't have a very good game against Ohio because I think he was maybe a little under the weather himself and didn't play as much as he usually does, is Hankins. I almost got to think I'd like to see him on the floor a little bit more too.
Yeah, he definitely he's learning the D1 bigs, and hopefully he continues to improve and get some uses his offensive skill set and really can help him out. Defensively, I think that illness I think weakened him up a little bit and may have limited some of his strength. So hopefully he's on the mend, and they got the week off here. I think they got exam week this week, so hopefully he can rest up and gain back some of that strength that they lost from that stomach bug I think they had going through the team.
All right, well, let's move on to the Saturday game, the Crosstown shootout. I didn't have a real good feeling about this game. Of course, I didn't have a real good feeling when it began because I couldn't watch it for a while because, as I was telling you, that ESPN, and I don't know, you can give your input, but I think Big East teams don't get a whole lot of respect by ESPN just because the Big East is followed mainly as a Fox league. And but again, there was another game, Pittsburgh and West Virginia, the backyard brawl or whatever they call it. But West Virginia was ahead by double digits almost the whole game and never got very close. And I kept thinking, well, they're going to change it here. But I didn't even I had to start listening to the game myself for a while. And of course, at that time, it was the Musketeers must have played as well as they played all day because they were actually fairly, when it came on with about 8 minutes left in the half, it was a 2 4-point game. It was fairly close. And from that point on, things didn't go so well. Musketeers lose, of course, 62-47, although let's stay positive, Xavier fans. Here's a stat for you. Since Bob Stack was hired in 1979, which we call the modern Xavier basketball era, the Musketeers still lead the series 23-17. But Musketeers' lowest point output since 2010. Only scored 47 points. What do you think was that UC's defense? Was that Xavier's offense? Was that a combination?
I'm going to say that's definitely a combination. I mean, it's hard to score points when you throw up as many three-point shots as they did and only shoot 20% from the three-point line. And that drops your overall shooting percentage from the field to 35%. And I believe that on two-point shot attempts, they hit 50%. So, it was it might have been a combination of UC's defense, but I think that there was some selection of what was not a great shot or an easy shot because you're open, but if you're open from the three-point line, sometimes that's not a great shot to take. And I think we're falling into that trap, as the Muskies are, where they're too quick to take what they perceive as an open three-pointer, and instead of working for something a little better, deeper into the shot clock.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. In the first half, though, what I did see is I thought it was some of the best ball movement I've seen all year. But again, I hate to pick on Najee Marshall, but he's the one that seems to – I mean, Najee, if he's got a wide open three, okay, take it. But I see him take too many where he's trying to create. I don't think Najee Marshall's ever going to be the kind of guy that can create his own three-point shot.
I think they really none of them are going to do that. They all look so much better when they get a pass out from the post, or they're getting a pass from someone who's penetrating, and they can step in, catch, and step in and shoot that shot. They look so much more fluid. The ball comes out of their hand better. I just, it's recognizing what is a good three-point shot versus what's not. I think they got it. Definitely Najee and Quentin got to work on finding that good three-point shot to take, as opposed to just, try to dribble two steps to your right and step into one. That's hard because you're not doing anything to move the defense. You're not getting a good look.
Yeah, and talking about Quentin, I don't know, and I know he's been hurt, he's been sick. But I also play in now. Has he been told that he was going to be more of a scorer this year? I think you said at one time you had read where he had really tried to work on his shot. Is he being told, you got a kind of a free reign, like your trade blew it this year? But, I'd rather see Quentin Gooden be a point guard, distribute, take the open three if you have it, drive if you can, open some things up, but let the game come to you, I guess. I don't know what your thoughts about where you think Quentin should be this year.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys who go out there and force the game. The guys who do that, they're NBA bound for sure. They're, unless they're undersized by a lot. I think with as youthful as they are, and they'd be better served trying to work the offense more, and then trying to get the ball in, or somebody taking a drive into the lane and kicking out for those shots, and just kind of let it come. I think that'll happen. And then when they get that good teamwork thing rolling, it'll all just start clicking.
Yeah, but at some point, I think, and what I did notice about the UC game, especially in the second half, they really packed their zone in and basically dared them to shoot. And in fact, probably lack of confidence, it seemed, I would guess they had 3 or 4 possessions in the second half where they didn't even get a shot off. I mean, the shot clock ran out. And it's almost like they just kept passing it around the outside, and I think, again, some of them had lost confidence in shooting. And my fear is I think that's what they're going to see a lot in the future, especially in the Big East. I think if they can't prove that a couple of them can shoot them down, make the open three, I think they're going to have trouble in the Big East. But again, hopefully, well, of course, a little trivia, in-house trivia here. Do you know who the best three-point shooter on the team is right now?
Ooh.
It's actually close, but
I'm going to say it's either Harden or Wellage.
Harden is shooting 44%. Wellage is shooting just over 40%. But here's the one that'll surprise you. Paul Scruggs is shooting 43%. See, that's where I think he has to step up and become maybe the player, so to speak. Let Quentin distribute. Again, but his problem is he has trouble staying on the floor right now. I think that's one of the keys. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but in my recollection of the first 10, 11 games, whatever, I think he gets a lot of stupid fouls. And I know he has longer arms. I think he has a wingspan of about like a 7-footer.
But he tends to pick up. Yeah, he picks up those fouls that are like he just stands in front of somebody and won't let them run their cut. Just with he's got his hand straight up in the air, and he'll just keep holding his ground and trying to force them, and they try to run. They're running through him, and instead of letting them run their cut, and then they can whistle him for the foul. He picks up a lot of the silly ones.
Because I think he's averaging about 3 steals a game too. I mean, his stat line is just unbelievable. He scores, he rebounds, especially for a guard. But he has steals. Of course, he has a few turnovers, a little bit too high, you think, for one of the quality positions, the guard positions. But again, I think going forward, and my last thoughts, and I'll give you a shot too, that people say, well, they didn't hit their three-pointers. Yeah, they didn't hit their three-pointers. But UC only hit 5 three-pointers too. Now, they didn't even take as many. Key, although I always harp on this, but it wasn't a bad number. Xavier had 12 turnovers. Now, that's not horrible, especially when you're playing a team like UC, the defense they play, kind of helter-skelter style. But the Bearcats only had 5 turnovers. So, again, that's 7 more possessions right there. And they didn't get out-rebounded too badly also. That's another thing that the Bearcats like to hang their hat on. Their great rebounding team. But they only out-rebounded the Musketeers 36-6, so they only beat them by 6. And I think on the offensive board, they maybe had 3 or 4 more. So, again, there's, 3 or 4 more possessions. So, basically, put the turnovers and the rebounds together. They had 10 more possessions, and they made more points out of that. That's where the difference came. Any final thoughts about the shootout? It's over. We can forget about it until next year. Of course, again, do you think they were intimidated by the environment? Again, think about it. I didn't even think about this. They said the only 2 who had actually been to UC to play, which was 2 years ago, was Quentin and Tyreek, and neither one of them were playing that much at that point in their freshman year. So
I mean, their first true road game. Yeah, I think they might have. I had a feeling whichever was true road game was the first one for them was going to be most likely a loss because they weren't exposed to a true road environment yet as a group. That was their first one. So what I'm hopeful for is that this is the learning experience that they needed. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be different, and hopefully it pays off for them as they go on the road to Missouri and then into league play after Christmas coming up here. Hopefully that helps them out. I think that the biggest thing that really hurt them down low with UC was the 12 offensive rebounds I think that UC did get. They turned those into 12 points. And so, that's a pretty good ratio on their offensive rebounds, turning those right into points. That's pretty close to the difference in the ball game.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving forward, got a little break here. Again, I was wondering, and you said it, I didn't check, but I figured this must be finals week, reason why they don't have a game scheduled. And maybe give them some time to work on some of their individual things and maybe try to, reflect on what they need to do and get some good practices in. But my next question is there anything else going forward? I asked the question, what's the biggest thing? And one of them we've already talked a little bit. I think Scruggs needs to be more of a focus of the offense and needs to, again, limit his fouls so he can stay on the floor and do that. Again, the turnovers, again, they weren't horrible at UC, but again, Quentin and Najee are leading the team in turnovers. And, I think, they're your leaders. And, again, I'm not a real fan of Najee handling the ball. And I think we forget last year he was a secondary player to Blewett and McCura. And so he didn't handle the ball as much because, obviously you weren't going to get the ball as much when those two were on the floor. So I think, there's more, he's seeing the ball more, and so it's kind of become evident that he isn't a great ball handler. Again, for 6'7", yeah, he's great, but I just, I'd like to see him just kind of play that slashing role and not dribble around so much. And again, I think at times they play a little bit out of control, a little undisciplined. But as you look forward, anything you want to add that you'd like to see or what you think is going to be a key to this team being competitive in the Big East? The Big East is going to be tough this year, I think.
I think one of their keys moving forward, and this is kind of I think it's there. They're just not wanting to do it yet because they did show that with Wellage. I believe that was at the start of the Ohio game where they actually ran the set plays for him to get looks. I think you're going to see more of that, especially when he's in the game moving forward, because they're almost going to have to treat him like Trayvon in that he's not going to dribble drive past people. He's not going to do anything except, spot up and shoot on offense. So I think they're going to move. You're going to see more of that when he's in the game, and they may even start running some sets for Scruggs because he is, he's shooting the ball and playing so well, or at least running stuff where he's more effective, even if it's that, if it's a man team, if he can take a guard down low and kind of invert the offense like what Villanova used to do with Brunson, just stuff like that. I think they're going to have to play more to their strengths instead of just going out and running whatever the motion offense that their cuts and their different things. I think they're going to have to adapt to what they have to be a little more successful, do some of that. I don't think they can run. I can't remember how many sets they said they ran last year with Trayvon. It was close to 100 different things to try to get him open each game because, once teams see one, they defend, they learn how to, they prepare for it the next time, and you have to come up with a new one. So I don't think they'll get quite that carried away with it, but I think that's kind of the stuff they're going to have to do.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with Scruggs, too, that, he's very good at taking his man down low, especially if it's someone his size or smaller, which, playing the guard position, sometimes that's who's matched up against him. In fact, he did a lot of good post play against OU. A lot of his points he would get post up down low, and he is great at finishing close to the basket. Again, that's I'd like to see. And again, I hate to make excuses for Quentin. I mean, he's in his third year. I know he's dealt with some adversity, but I just think he doesn't finish as well going into the basket as he seemed to last year. That's what I really liked about him last year is he seemed to be able to finish. And, again, I don't know, maybe it's the shoulder. Maybe he doesn't want to use that shoulder as much in contact when he goes in close to the basket. Maybe it's still bothering him a little bit. I think Quentin is a good player, and he needs to play to his strengths. And I just don't know if he'll ever be a three-point shooter. Again, he's got to be able to make the open one, but I would like to see him, again, more as a quarterback than a scorer. I think that's where his strength is.
Yeah,
but I don't know what Coach
agree
Steele
with that.
told him.
Yep.
So, all right. Anything else you want to say about moving forward? Any wish list? Any advice for Coach Steele?
I think I kind of gave that already, and just hopefully the rim looks a little bigger to him moving forward than it probably does right now. Is about the only thing I can hope for the Muskies.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They got 3 non-league games left. I think the biggest challenge will probably be the on-road game at Missouri. I don't think Missouri's they're probably middle of the road SEC, but just the fact that they have to go on the road, hopefully, because they're going to go on the road. Everybody in the Big East, and there's a lot of tough environments. Well, let's look forward to next Saturday night. Is your son excited? He gets to be with you. I will be on the left coast this coming week, so I won't be available. Is he looking forward to it?
Oh yeah. He's excited. He's glad he gets to go. It'll be a good night out for the two of us.
What are you guys going to look forward to? The Eastern Kentucky Colonels.
Well,
what should the fans expect?
Colonels are coming in at 5-4. They're averaging 81.6 points per game. Shooting from the floor is only around 40%. So they're getting it done probably through some offensive rebounding and stuff. They have a very good forward, a senior named Nick Mays. He's 6'9", 250, and I already have a reason to not like him because he hit a buzzer beater at Eastern Kentucky that beat the mighty Norse at the end of regulation on Saturday night. So he's pretty good. He's averaging 24 a game, where the rest of the team, the starters and the bench players are averaging anywhere from 10 to 6 points per game. So he's got a nice supporting cast, but he's the guy who's getting it done for the Colonels.
Yeah, not only did he hit that buzzer beater against the Norse of Northern Kentucky, but also last week he hit another one, a three-point shot at the buzzer to beat High Point. So he hit 2 buzzer beaters in 1 week. Yeah, and he's averaging almost 25 points a game. And, if you look at the rest of their lineup, I think the highest second point total is averaging about 8 or 9. So it looks like he's who they're going to have to stop. You think probably Najee maybe will be the assignment to him? I mean, 6'9", guy's got some size, but obviously he's got some shooting ability, or he did at least against High Point. I actually saw that video. It was a three-pointer from the top of the key that he hit to win that game. So how do they stop him?
I would say Najee's going to have that task, and he's going to have to play him tough and not pick up fouls because obviously Xavier's going to need him out on the floor for other reasons. And then the question becomes, I don't know who he's going to have to guard. And I know college teams don't think like NBA teams, but if he's guarding Najee or if he's guarding Tyreek, that's the guy who's getting the ball. And to clear out for him something, let him go after him, because you want to try to get that guy in a little foul trouble, maybe get him on the bench a little bit, and then we see what the Colonels can do without him. But yeah, I would say that Najee's probably going to draw that straw to start with, and then hopefully he doesn't get any foul trouble and he can make life difficult for him, because he's so long and athletic that it would be definitely a difficult matchup for him.
Yeah, and as you say that, it makes me think, too, another thought I had that I'd like to see, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think Zach Hankins maybe should get more time. I think he's maybe a little more offensively gifted than Tyreek will ever be. And I think, obviously he's played 3 years of Division II where he dominated. He was Player of the Year. But I every game I see him looking like he feels more comfortable, and he's got some good moves down low. He's very athletic, and again 6'11", and not a spectacular jumper, but he's had some blocks. So I'd like to see him get maybe a little bit more time. I almost would think about starting him maybe and bringing Tyreek off the bench. Of course, you never know how that works on the psyche of Tyreek Jones, who's, I think as a captain's been a leader. He's been here 3 years. So, again, that's a coaching thing that I'm sure has to be taken in consideration. But I just see him seems like he gets a little bit better every game, like he's feeling more comfortable. And you got to remember, it was like probably this point of the season last year, maybe a little bit earlier, that when Kareem Cantor started to, kind of get a feel for Xavier's team and started to score.
I was just thinking that as you were saying that. I'm like, if you remember, it was Christmas. It was right around the Christmas break when Kareem Cantor all of a sudden, because we would sit there watching him last year and be like, man, this guy, I think this is a reach for him, playing at this level. And then, wow, look what he turned into. And I think, if I'm not, it was right around this time. It was about the 10th game in, and all of a sudden, boom, it started clicking for him. And they learned how to play with him. And obviously, he had a great run with the rest of the Muskies last year, winning that Big East regular season championship. So,
and actually, I was reminded of that because he had a big game against UC last year, and I think the game was played about the same time last year, early December.
Yeah, I think that was kind of like his coming out party, that game. I was going to say that, but I couldn't remember for sure. So that was definitely one of his bigger moments early on.
Of course, the other thing I question too is, and it's hard, and you and I have both been coaches, and when you're young, you think you know everything, and as you get older, you realize you didn't know that much. I'm not sure where Coach Steele is in situations like that. He's trying to figure it out. It's easy to be the assistant coach and run the drills and be the position coach and do your thing, but when you're in charge of the whole squad, then psychology and chemistry become important subjects. And I'm not quite sure where Travis Steele. And again, the only way to learn it is to do it. You could sit there and watch another guy, but he's watched Chris Mack for 10 years, but obviously Chris Mack has a different personality than Travis Steele. I don't know if you saw his post-game press conference at UC, but it was very short. And the only thing I remember him saying is, I just want to get on the bus and get out of here. I think he was kind of embarrassed.
I think so. I think he thought they would perform a lot better than they did, and they did not. So, I'm sure it's a big step in sliding over to that chair. And I think he's going to go through those growing pains, and but if you're ever going to, get that head coaching experience and all that, you got to go through it.
Yeah, because you're it's the buck stops with you. As an assistant coach, you sit on that bench and you give all the ideas in the world, and the head coach either uses them or he doesn't. And if he uses them and they go well, you look like a genius. And if he doesn't use them, then nobody knows that he didn't use your idea. Yep. He's never going to say, well, Coach Steele said we should have done this. I guess I should have done that. That probably was, So, again, I think, he's been around the game. He's been around Xavier. I think he's excited. I think he's probably the right guy. But, it's going to take time. And, again, psychology and chemistry, those are the two things. I don't think he's lost his team. I think they like him. But I think he's starting to realize that it's a different world when you're sitting in the big chair, as we say.
Yeah. And, it's a young team. There's not a lot of minutes played in this group from, last year, and minutes where you're the one who matters. I think Najee really benefited last year from having JP and Trayvon out on the floor because it opened up the lane for him. to do the stuff he did. And now he's got a, he looks in that lane and it's just a crowded mess.
Yeah, and then, think about it. The three seniors on this team weren't here last year. So, they're still trying to figure it out. I think they're all three very talented players. I mean, I hate to think where we would be if we didn't have those three. That comes down to, there's some conspiracy theories out there that there's maybe a reason why they didn't get too many high school recruits last year, that maybe the word was out that Chris Mack was not going to be here and we didn't know who was going to be here. I don't want to talk about that too much, but again, think about those three not being here and the cupboard would really be bare.
Oh yeah. The walk-ons families would be really happy because they'd be watching their kids log some minutes.
Leighton Strand would get plenty of minutes, and Dontarius James would probably be a starter.
It's a good possibility.
All right. So you ready for a little trivia? One last point here. It should be good next Saturday because Eastern Kentucky's in the same boat. First-year coach A.W. Hamilton, no head coaching experience. He played at Wake Forest and Marshall, and he has a long career assistant coaching. Last he was with North Carolina State as an assistant. That was only 1 year. He actually coached at Hargrave Military, the prep school, for a few years. We all know who came from there, right? At least one player.
Yeah, David West.
There you go. So, again, should be an even playing field. Now, actually shouldn't be because we got the home court advantage, and you would think the Musketeers should be able to take care of this handily. But we've said that before, and we've looked up in the second half, and the score's been a lot closer than we thought. So, again, I think Saturday I won't be there. Hopefully I'll pick up at least a replay of the game. I'll be a few on a little different time schedule out there, but hope to pick it up. But wish the Musketeers good luck. So you ready for a little trivia here?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, this is we're going to deal with Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky, you know that their mascot is the
Colonels.
Yep. But up until the 1960s, they had another name. Do you know what that was?
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. Do you know the school colors?
I think they're red and gray.
Close. A different shade of red. Kind of purplish red.
Maroon?
Maroon. You got it. Up until the mid-1960s, they were the Eastern Kentucky Maroons. Not real creative. Three major alumni that graduated from Eastern Kentucky. I'll give you a clue, and you tell me who they are. First one was an actor. In fact, he was a very expensive actor, so to speak, going back a ways. In fact, he was worth $6 million.
Oh. That is
you don't do real well on movies and Trivial Pursuit, do you?
No, I'm trying to think. It's a $6 million man.
Lee Majors.
Lee Majors. I couldn't think of the last name. I was going Lee, and I couldn't think of it.
Second one is an ESPN personality, used to be, is actually on another major network now, who hails from Dayton, Ohio.
That's Dan Patrick.
Dan Patrick is another famous alumni. And this one, I always have to have one that you will, the guesses can be limited, but I would have never put this together, but former NFL coach who graduated from Eastern Kentucky.
Former NFL coach. Graduated from Eastern Kentucky. NFL coach. The Harbaugh dad coached. Did he coach down there, I think? I can't remember.
This guy was a head NFL coach.
Head NFL coach. Trying to think.
Actually, now is an ESPN personality.
Eastern.
You'll never get it. Rex Ryan.
Yeah, probably not. Rex Ryan. Oh, wow, that's
Ryan,
pretty impressive.
Eastern Kentucky alumni. So, and the final bit of trivia I'll just give to you. If you're ever on the Eastern Kentucky campus, it is supposedly good luck if you go to the Daniel Boone statue and rub his left foot.
I'll keep that in mind if I'm ever there.
Never know. All right. Well, we'd like to thank Mike Goodpaster giving us the opportunity on the Grueling Truth Network to bring you the RaGing X Report. And we'll be back hopefully next Monday. And hopefully I won't be just asking Bill what happened as I return from my vacation. Or I'll still be in California when we do the show. But hopefully I'll either get a chance to watch a game or watch a replay of the game so I can be informed. Otherwise, I'll just ask you questions about the game and how you and your son enjoyed the experience. So we thank you for listening. Any final thoughts there, Bill?
Other than let's go X, I have nothing.
Go Muskies.
Go Muskies.
All right.
We're all good?
Yeah. I don't know if it's still recording or not, but so.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you.
See you, Jim.